And let's go live. And we're live here on Facebook. I'd like to welcome those listening in podcast land, and also I'd like to welcome my buddy Rich. Rich, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Mike. So it was a nice short week, nice short quick week at work. Only 2 days for me, Mike. How many did you do? To three, or was it?
I
four?
had 3 full days this week, so I had Wednesday, Thursday,
Okay.
Friday. I got a lot accomplished this week. It was crazy. I'm super happy with what I did this week, and then next week I got a whole lot more. This week and this last week and this upcoming week are weeks that for me are going to be crazy at work. But after that, hopefully it'll start slowing down a little bit. It'll pick up a bit after that. Right as school starts, and then it'll be back into the school year, and that'll be really nice. So,
Nice. Yeah. Great to hear. Things are moving along. Really a short week. I was out at the John Deere Classic volunteering on Wednesday, the hottest day of the tournament. Go figure. And handing out hats, greeting veterans, swapping war stories, and as well as and on Monday during the holiday weekend we finished up, more my wife than I, but we finished up our bathroom remodel. So,
yes,
yeah,
and exciting news on your wife front as well, as she got a new job.
she did. She's out at Great River Chiropractic.
Yeah. So if you're
so,
looking
yeah,
for a chiropractor in the Quad Cities, go check them out and tell them Amy sent you. So
Yes, please do go and see Dr. Andrew or Dr. Alex.
nice. So Rich, did we welcome those on YouTube? Have we welcomed those people yet?
So welcome to those on YouTube and out in podcast land. Wherever you're watching us, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're watching here on the Facebook feed, leave a comment or a reaction, and we'll make sure to get it at the end of the show and give you a shout out at the end of the episode, or maybe as it's happening, if we catch it in time. If Mike catches it in time.
I think I got all the reactions in there.
I think so.
Okay.
All right, Mike. So what are we talking about today?
Iowa has some great stuff happening this week. Some big things for people that were born and raised in Iowa happening this week. And so we have 2 stories to share about that, plus the John Deere Classic. Rich, what else do we got this week?
Well, Mike, we got to talk about the Chicago street race, like our thoughts, how we think maybe what they could do better next year, as well as give you the results. We got to talk about Atlanta, and we got the All-Star break this week, so we got to take a look at who made the full roster, how the Cubs are doing, and we got to talk about this NBA in-season tournament a little bit, as Adam Silver just announced the details for that just actually came out. I think it was Friday. But Mike, all that and more, but what do we got to do first?
We got to roll that intro. Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich. And we're back. Okay, Rich, with all of that, we also have a poll question to talk about. First and foremost, as we do every week, we have that. This last week's poll question, man, nobody cared about this one. 18 people saw it. 18 people. Jordan, I'm looking at you. Hang on, let me see who voted. Okay, I'm gonna call people out. Solomon, Jordan, Bernie, your mom, Eli, Greg, Matt Johnson, your wife, Mike Sable, Mikey a Roterer, some guy that we don't know. I think some other person we don't know.
But you still got to give them their name. They might be listening to the show, maybe.
Yeah, you're probably listening because you're at least seeing it. Desiree Marcan, Mifa Shoko, Ruben Ross, and Kathy Hansen, Rodney Mueller, and Becky Ramirez. None of you guys voted. Y'all saw it. It takes 1 second. All you got to do is do a click. Go click to vote with 3 votes. With 19 people see it. Y'all could have voted. Come on now. You're better than that. I'm going to call you out. Okay. So this week, it is, we had Seven Nation Army versus Wild Thing. Rich, it was 100% vote. So who'd you vote for?
I voted for Seven Nation Army.
Yeah, me too. Obviously, because, 100% of the vote goes to one thing, and we both voted for the same thing. So there you go. So with that, Seven Nation Army moves on. Wild Thing got 0 votes. Nobody likes it, apparently. So,
or nobody liked it instead of Seven Nation Army. So this week, Mike, it'll be Living on a Prayer going up against Twist and Shout.
Oh, that one's easy.
I'll be sure to get that poll up once we go off of air. Mike, if they want to vote on the polls, where do they find them?
You find them at Fans of Balls and Sticks. Or look at Rich's page, or my page, or our basic Facebook page. So, yeah, look there.
All right, Mike, do you see what's coming up next?
I do, but before we do that, we have a reaction shout-out. Shout-out to Eli Kincaid for giving us a wow face. I think I might have got him on this. The break we're talking about is the All-Star break, so not us. Anyway, Rich, is it a left turn?
It is a left-hand turn, Mike, and what's after that?
It's another left-hand turn because we're heading into the NASCAR Corner, presented as always by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois. Check them out for all your sports memorabilia needs on 5th Avenue or on their eBay store. Once again, that is Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Last week we were in the streets of Chicago for the Grant Park 220, as it turns out, instead of 400. As we had to cut the race short by 25 laps.
So it was always the 220. So you have to where were those 200? Where were those 20 laps?
Yeah.
How would that reduce? But that's math, and nobody said I was doing math on this show, so we're not going to worry about that.
Okay.
But Mike, who won the race?
SVG, Shane Van Gisberg. The Kiwi. He's from New Zealand. So.
Supercar champion coming in.
Did you watch that race?
Winning the street race. I did. I watched
at the end of that race.
Entire race.
At the end of that race, watching him, so the first half of that race was he had been in that car maybe an hour total. Ever been in a NASCAR car for maybe an hour total. I don't think it was that much. But then he was in that car for that race. That was all he was in the car for.
Well, I think he did get a test run on one of the other on a road course, on one of the road course layouts, maybe like a week before.
But that was it.
Besides simulator work and getting behind the wheel of a car, maybe a week or a couple weeks beforehand, that was great. He did a great job.
For the first half of that race, all he did was learn how that car was going to react to what he did. Then the second half of that race, he started figuring out how he could manipulate it better. And then that end part of that race, you saw the car control that most guys in NASCAR don't even have. Why do I say that? He was pulling seconds multiple seconds per lap better than everyone else in that field. That man was on fire. And bar none, that was awesome to watch. He has, I think they said he has 2 or 3 more years left on his supercar contract, and then he said he wants to come to America. Look out, Denny Hamlin. If SVG ends up in NASCAR, I might have a new favorite driver. I will say it here first.
Right. Besides not having much car experience in a Cup Series car, he was driving on a different side of the car that he's used to. He's used to being in what we call the passenger side seat, but for him is the driver's side seat. So he's shifting with a different hand, driving on a different.
I like to call it the drinker side, but that's me.
Oh, okay.
The drinker side.
But yeah, all right, Mike. Our drivers, Mike, Chase Elliott came in third, thanks to a pit strategy that ended up paying off beyond the racers didn't know that the race was going to be shortened until it happened, just like we did as fans watching it. And my pick of Michael McDowell came in seventh. So Mike, you're still down 14-5 though. So before we start talking about Atlanta, what were your thoughts on the race itself?
It was better than I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
Now, there are plenty of things that they need to do to make it better. But let's talk about the positives.
Yep.
Let's do that first. One, they got the race in. We weren't sure at times there. But more importantly, the racing was good. There was good racing in spots on that track. There were spots in that track that you saw guys pulling moves and setting corners up, and you saw what I would argue would be almost European style driving in those cars. And that was amazing. Now, are they as good as European cars? Heck no. But are they? Was it European style driving because they're in a road course? Yes. So.
Yeah. I thought it was good racing, based on the conditions, but also given the situation though. So I think it was worth it to try it, and I wouldn't be opposed to seeing it happen again, either with the exact same layout or them possibly modifying the layout for next year. So it was good racing. I was kind of, based on what I heard what was going on in the Xfinity series, where it was follow the leader, there wasn't much passing going on. I was expecting a lot of the passing to happen on restarts or possibly on pit road, having pit road strategy playing a big part into this. And it, by all means, pit road strategy did play a big part in the race finish. But most times on road courses that happens anyway. It didn't impact Van Gisbergen but I think after they reduced the race down to 75 laps instead of the 120 or whatever it was, how many laps, when he started 18th and worked his way up the field, and everybody else was pretty much the people that didn't pit at the end of stage 2 were pretty much stayed within their starting order after that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't opposed to it, but do you have any more positives before we get into the negatives, Igley?
I think positive. The city showed up. The city did what needed to happen and was willing to make. They were willing to wait. That was a big thing. I wasn't sure how long they'd be willing to just let the rain happen before they said, "Well, we gotta open these roads back up. We got to get you guys out of here. We got people that need." it was great. How fun was it to watch a race that you actually care about, where guys are driving on roads you've actually driven on, Rich?
Yeah.
Like that North Shore Drive, driving into the Field Museum right before it splits, and splits the Field Museum. Is it the Field Museum, the Shed Aquarium, and Soldier Field, all in that section there that you go down on North Shore Drive? For me, that feels like an iconic drive, because when I was kids at the elementary school that I went to, we regularly would go to the Shed or the Field Museum, or there was other stuff down in that area. There was like three big. Oh, the Natural History Museum. All of those. Like, we would come and do that regularly. So that drive to me felt like semi-nostalgic, but also one of those things where it's just amazing to see. So that was awesome. That, I think, for fans that have been on that, and especially like big city fans, like Chicago fans, yeah, you're right. That might have been annoying that you couldn't get to where you couldn't get to the North Shore Beach. It was pouring down rain. You weren't going to the North Shore Beach anyway. And they were making it difficult for traffic down there. Okay. But outside of those things, I think a lot of fans in Chicago, it probably drew in a lot of fans from Chicago to see those races. See them going down those same streets, going down all that stuff. That had to have been awesome. So, I love that. I loved that. That was awesome to me. And just in general, the coverage, like the excitement that I've said it. I think I've said it here before, but if not, I'll say it here. And I've said it before in general, and I'll say it again. I'm not a big fan of NBC's coverage of NASCAR. I think Fox is by far and away the better coverage. And I was nervous because it was going to be on NBC, and I think NBC does great for football, and I think they do great for other things, but NASCAR is not really in their wheelhouse. And so I was nervous about it, but I thought they did a great job on that coverage. And
I mean,
go ahead.
For me, I don't think I noticed that big of a difference in their coverage. I think maybe they have one too many. I think they have too many voices in the booth.
So that was
for their coverage. But I like the way they do road courses.
Right.
Love the way they cover road courses, putting different people at different turns and passing off the call of the race as you go along the race course, instead of only having three people talk the entire time.
Thank you for reminding me of that, Rich. I don't normally like that, and I think there's a good and a bad that came out of that, by the way. The good was listening to there were two drivers. It was Jeff Gordon it was not Jeff Gordon. It was Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Dale Jr. and I think, what is it, Jeff Burton, one of the Burtons?
Yeah, Jeff Burton, I think. No, it was Dale Jarrett.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure it was Dale Jarrett. Either way, I think it was Dale Jarrett. Dale Jarrett's calling in the radio broadcast, honestly, for the first few laps that I watched, I didn't even realize that it was him. And once I did, I was like, man, this man can call a race. Like, legitimately call a race, and could be on the radio as a regular announcer, not a color commentator. Dale Earnhardt Jr. he was better than I thought he'd be, but at times you could tell he was slightly lost. I don't know if you caught it at all. They put him in a spot where he didn't get a lot of coverage. They put him right in turn 3, or in turn 4, coming into turn 4. and you from his vantage point, he could see 4 into 5, and then as they were going out of 5, he lost them, which I think was a good thing because his coverage was not great. Now,
Dale by himself. So Dale in a group, I think, does better than him by himself.
Dale as a color commentator, Dale Earnhardt Jr. as a color commentator is by far and away one of the best people that I've heard in a booth. Dale Earnhardt Jr. as a play-by-play / lap-by-lap man, not that good. Dale Jarrett, that man can call a race. I'd listen to him do it any day. Okay, now let's move on from there, and let's talk about some of our not so good things. Rich, what's your first one?
Well, Mike, for me, it's you got to have a backup plan. By all means, you can't predict the weather.
Yep.
You can't, and I'm sure that there was something in writing. The city was eager to get their streets back.
Oh, I'm sure they were.
I'm sure you couldn't have said, or I'm sure you couldn't. I'm sure there had to have been something in writing that said, you can only race on Monday if this specifically happens.
Yep.
And obviously so when they cut the race short due to darkness, instead of saying, well, we're going to race we don't know how many laps we're going to go, but we'll give you more info when it gets closer. So them throwing it, I was expecting them to probably throw a red flag, and then we'll pick this up on Monday.
No, they weren't doing that.
So exactly, but they weren't going to do that. They cut the race short instead.
So things that could improve
it was have a better backup plan.
Yep, things that could improve that. Musco Lighting provides portable lights on a stand that would have enough lighting for them to light the race so that they could race in the dark. Number one. Number two, putting LED headlights and taillights would do enough to provide for them to race in the dark as well. Those two things I think they could have done, and that would have helped. I think it would have been cool to see. It would have been more like a Le Mans race. By the way, didn't we just see a NASCAR with headlights and taillights at a Le Mans race last week or 2 weeks ago?
You did.
Oh!
Yes, you did.
So it's not that they figured it out. They made it work. NASCAR in general should be able to make it work. I totally agree. Lighting needs to be improved, but either way, I think they did great. I was shocked. I think if they would have had to throw the yellow flag before they threw the white flag, it would have been a checkered flag. I think they would have just ended the race. They would have said we can't. It's because it was starting to get too dark. So that was good. Any other? That was the biggest thing for me. The lack of plan for lighting and stuff like that, which similar to yours have a better backup plan. I would like to see. They have wipers. They have wets. I'd like to see full wets. So when and again, I know this apples and oranges, but we're getting there. And in fact. And I'm going to keep coming back to it, and it's going to probably annoy people out there, but we watched a NASCAR car using NASCAR tires specifically designed for it run in foggy / rainy / gross conditions in France last month, didn't we?
Yep. You had the opportunity to watch them race like that. Yes.
Okay, I did. But
good. Wow.
I did a lot. Me and my wife did. But with those tires, they have. So what that tells us is Goodyear has the tires developed for full-on race driving. NASCAR, so they have those tires ready to go because they couldn't have gone to France without having tires that are full-on ready to go, 100% without fail. They would have been told, well, You can't race unless you have something that can do this. So they have those tires ready to go. We saw that, running in the rain means you have to slow down a little bit, which we saw, by the way. They had to slow down a little bit because there was standing water regularly, and they made it work. It makes for more intense driving because of what's going on. So, yeah, I think NASCAR's lack of planning and lack of openness to things like full rain driving were things that bothered me. Outside of, by the way, also, maybe let's plan for earlier in the day racing.
Yep, that was one of the things that I had, but Mother Nature would have gotten in the way of that.
Right.
You had said, all right, we're going to start the race at noon.
Right.
We're going to start the race at noon or 1 o'clock, which is when you normally start these races.
Yep.
Instead, even without the weather being a factor, I think that they were starting that at 3 Central or 4 Central.
It was like 4 Central.
Local time in Chicago.
Yeah.
So they kind of painted themselves into a corner, saying, "Well, hoping nothing goes wrong, that we can get this thing done and and have a checkered flag at 7:30 or 8 o'clock."
Yeah.
So for me, the other thing that I have besides an earlier start time would have been maybe only have one series on the course, to where you could say that.
I'm going to push back on that, Rich.
No way you're gonna keep you're gonna be able to keep the course set up for Monday to run on a backup race. You schedule the race for Saturday.
Nope.
And you could easily say, all right, you can schedule the race on Saturday to where you have Sunday as a backup, or if the weather looks great, no problems, you could easily have all your festivities like qualifying and practices on Saturday, run the race on Sunday.
Nope.
No,
I'm gonna push back on this one hard. First,
okay, that's fine.
First of all, with the way, just in general, the way that NASCAR is going to handle it, having the Xfinity cars on the course all day Saturday helps get that course in better shape for Sunday. Yes, the rain washed away most of the rubber. Totally going to agree with that. But those cars are yes, the road takes more of a toll on the cars and the tires than the cars and the tires take a toll on the road. Totally agree with that. But cars and tires take a toll on the road. Why are there potholes on 7th Street every year after the winter? Because of the salt and the way that the cars hit those bumps and hit those potholes and pull up all of that junk that they try to put in there rather than actually fixing the road, right?
Yep.
Okay. Cars affect the roads. So as the cars go over it, and the faster you're going, the more your car affects the road. The more downforce, the more all of that stuff, the more your car is putting higher pressure and higher wear and tear on the vehicles themselves, or on the roads themselves. It's really making it bad. So with that, you need those cars out a day before. You need all of those cars out a day before. I would say if you want to go with your strategy, do a Friday night race and then a Saturday race so that you have a backup for Sunday. But you need those Xfinity cars out there. That's reason number one. Number two, I don't know that you're gonna get them. Like, again, you're gonna have to take down North Shore Drive for a Friday to do that. In order to do a Saturday race, you have to shut down the course Friday.
And I think Friday was already. I think they had portions of this racetrack shut down at least 2 weeks or at least a week before
But there were portions
anything
that
was
weren't
scheduled.
shut down until Saturday. There were guys that were reporting, and it had been reported during the week that parts of the track were not shut down until Saturday. So,
But by all means, that's just my having that insight's great, Mike. As I am still a pretty new fan to NASCAR.
yep.
So as a not a longtime fan like yourself, that was just my opinion. Only have the Cup Series go there, with the intention of maybe a week before the race, looking at the weather. If it looks like Sunday is going to be a washout, you schedule the race for Saturday, and so you can have Sunday to be your backup plan.
Yep.
If not, everything gets run on Saturday, and so you can start breaking down the course and give the city back their streets on by Tuesday.
Yep. And I like that as a concept.
Maybe not. Yeah, and maybe not having it on a holiday weekend as well. But I
Actually,
guess
the holiday weekend.
If you figured,
Go ahead.
if you figured it, nobody was going to be going to work on Monday, and you had Tuesday. So I guess with it being a holiday weekend, at least you didn't have people coming into the city to needing to use those streets to get to work at least. So.
Okay, Rich, this week we're heading to Atlanta for the Quaker State 400 at Atlanta Motor Speedways. The high banks of Atlanta now runs more like a super speedway than a standard mile and a half racetrack. Super exciting track to watch again. It basically restrictor plate racing on a mile and a half track, which is exciting. With that being said, did you don't have it here as a note, but did you see what the opening is going to look like?
I did not.
So the Grand Marshal for the race, have you heard who he is?
Oh, yeah.
Richard Childress from Richard Childress Racing. And even better, he will be driving the first car that Kevin Harvick won a race in at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
As the pace car.
As the pace car. I love it. By the way, don't let Richard Petty do it. He doesn't like to leave the track when he gets out there. But no, Richard, it's exciting. For those that don't know, those that aren't NASCAR fans, Kevin Harvick started. He actually took the seat that was Dale Earnhardt Sr. When Dale Earnhardt Sr. died, he took that car and started racing for that team and did a great job. Actually did quite well for that team for a long time there. But while he was so it's going to be great to see the number 29 Goodrich Chevrolet back out on the track, and for all intents and purposes, they totally changed the paint color. By the way, Rich, I don't think you know this. So when Dale Earnhardt Sr. died, rough day by the way, I remember it well. Cried a little that day. They had already had the cars ready to go for Dale Sr. to drive at the next couple tracks. So they had to scramble and figure out what to do paint scheme wise, because that black number 3 was so iconically Dale Sr. Nowadays we have you have a guy like William Byron come in and runs the number 24 car that in paint schemes that look nearly identical to what Jeff Gordon runs, but back then you couldn't imagine anybody driving in the number 3 in the number 3 in black like Dale Sr. did. And so what you're going to see Sunday for the race, Rich, is going to be a car that was designed for Dale Sr. to sit in, that they quickly came up with a white and black paint scheme for Kevin Harvick to sit in and changed the number to 29. It was one of those emergency things that they let him do. They let the team do because of how iconic how iconic Dale Sr. was, and how much he made that car. Like, everybody knows that car. People that don't watch NASCAR know that car. So they had to do something to make sure that people didn't mistake it. And so what you're going to see, and that's something that I don't know that a lot of people are thinking about right now. That car was designed for Dale Sr. to sit in, not for Kevin Harvick. And Kevin was in it and won the race and did really well that season. So that's what we're going to see. And Richard Childress, I more want Richard Childress. He's a big man. He's also like 70 years old. So I'm excited to see him try to get into that car. That's going to be that's going to be the comic relief for the day. So, okay, Rich, who are you picking for the race?
Mike, you have the honors since your pick of Chase Elliott came in higher than Michael McDowell last week. Mike, who are you picking? I'm
going to pick the aforementioned Kevin Harvick. Now, this track is nothing like the track he won on 23 years ago. But what it is he's a great driver, and he knows how to drive restrictor plate racing. So I'm picking Kevin Harvick.
I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney. He normally does pretty well in the super speedway type tracks.
Yep.
And that's my only reason for going Blaney. So.
Okay, Rich, take us out.
All right, that was the NASCAR Corner presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. If you're local, check them out on 5th Avenue in Moline. And you can also find them on eBay. Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. All right, Mike, let's keep making left turns, but on the baseball diamond. The Cubbies this week had 2 games with the Guardians, 4 up in Milwaukee, and 1 out in the Bronx. Mike, how'd they do?
Well, the Cubs won 3 out of 4. Rich, what did we pick?
All right, Mike, I went with 2 wins. You gave them 3 wins, so you got it right on the dot as they got swept by the Guardians in those 2 games from show to show, split with the Brewers, which is what you thought, and they beat the Yankees in the Bronx. Mike, that was some history being made. How was that victory against the Yankees history?
Well, it is the first time in franchise history for either team for the Cubs to beat the Yankees in the city of New York on a road game. So that's exciting to see that. Rich, good to see him playing well, but we're getting ready to head into the All-Star week, and we're getting ready to do that, and we only have 3 games between now and the next show. Rich, what are those games?
They're going to be 2 in the Bronx against the Yankees, and then coming out of the All-Star break, as I believe we'll more than likely do a Friday night or a Saturday morning show. They'll be able to get that game in against the Red Sox before we go on the air. So it'll be 1 game against the Red Sox in Chicago. Mike, how many wins are you going to give them?
0.
0.
The Yankees are a good team. I just saw that. I'm sorry, man. I totally wasn't even paying attention.
No, you're good. The Yankees are a good team. There's history that they've never been able to win in the Bronx.
Yep. So I'm going to say that they're not going to win anything there. And then the Reds coming off the All-Star game. That's going to be that's a wild card game. First, the Cubs have to fly from New York City. Some of their players have to drive from New York or fly from New York to Seattle. And then said players then have to fly back to Boston.
No, the game is in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Seattle to Chicago.
Okay, that's still a pretty big move to go from one to the other. So, yeah, I don't think they're gonna win any of them.
All right, I'm going to give them 1 win. More than likely, if that 1 win's probably going to come out of the Red Sox, because you got to factor in that even though it's probably going to be Stroman or Steele in that game, and Stroman and Steele have been pitching really well this year. Yeah, Pitt have been pitching really well this year, and you never know with cousin Kyle Hendricks. So he's on the bump against the Yankees this weekend. So maybe they get a week, maybe they get the win out of the Yankees again.
Okay, but
Just maybe.
you said Stroman or Steele. Well, one of those guys is in the All-Star game. Probably going to get
one of them
used.
is in the All-Star game. So they're going to have to come in. There'll be one of those players flying from Seattle to Chicago with only a 1 day off.
Right.
Before that Friday game.
And
I think there's 2 games. Yeah, no, there'll be 2 days of rest. So I think the game's on a Tuesday.
Yep.
So they'd have 2 days of rest before coming back.
Yep, but the
Friday.
other side is that they also have to he's probably going to pitch
1 inning.
at least 1 inning.
1 inning.
But he's got to warm up, do the inning, and then cool down. You're not gonna, yeah. So either way,
Right.
I think it's gonna be. They're not gonna win a game, and that's okay. Like you can't win. You can't win a game every week. So, okay, we have a ton of news for you as we're gonna start with the MLB All-Star starting lineup and the full roster.
Well, last week we gave the starting lineup.
Yep.
There's been a couple of changes here as Austin Hayes and Adolis Garcia will be going into the starting lineup for the American League, replacing Mike Trout and Aaron Judge, who are injured. And I think they've announced that Shohei has said that he will not pitch in the All-Star game due to a blister issue.
Okay.
But I don't think that they've announced who is going to be. I don't know if they're going to name a player to replace him on the pitching staff or not. Joining him on the All-Star team in the American League were Sal Perez, Adley Ruckman, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Whit Merrifield for some reason, Bo Bichette, Jose Ramirez, Wander Franco, Luis Robert of the White Sox, Austin Hayes going into the starting lineup, Yordan Alvarez, Garcia, Tucker, Julio Rodriguez, and Brett Rucker.
Your pitchers are Shohei Ohtani, who is not going to be pitching, Garrett Cole, Luis Castillo, Sonny Gray, Nathan Eovaldi, okay. Kevin Guzman, Shane McClellan, Framber Valdez, Michael Lorenz, George Kirby, and Carlos Estevez. Who are your relievers, Rich?
In the bullpen, the closers, Kenley Jansen, Emmanuel Clase, Felix Bautista, and Yanir Cano.
Yep. Over on the National League side, any changes in their lineup?
There could be a change as Corbin Carroll is undergoing the starting outfielder from the Diamondbacks might be going on to the injured list as he had to undergo an MRI. For the reserves for the National League, you have Will Smith and Elias Diaz behind the dish, Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, Dansby Swanson of the Cubs, who has already committed to saying he will not be playing in the All-Star game due to a slight hamstring issue.
Yep.
Pete Alonso, Gerardo Perdomo, the injury replacement from the Diamondbacks, Lourdes Gurriel, Nick Castellanos, Juan Soto, and Jorge Soler. Mike, who are the pitchers for the National League?
You have Zach Gallen, Spencer Strider, Bryce Elder, Justin Steele, Mitch Keller. By the way, we got to talk about him in just a second as well. Josiah Gray, Clayton Kershaw, and Marcus Stroman. So both the Cubs pitchers that you mentioned will pitch at least 1 inning during the All-Star game. Rich, finally, by the way, Clayton Kershaw is a scratch because of, and I forget what his injury is. Yeah.
We'll talk about Clayton Kershaw and David Bednar's kind gesture between the two of them.
Yep.
As Bednar is replacing Kershaw on the roster, joining the National League bullpen, which will include Alexis Diaz, Josh Hader, Devin Williams, and Camilo Duvall.
Yep.
So, Mike, why don't you take what happened with Mitch Keller, talk about the importance of that, and I'll take David Bednar.
So, Mitch Keller is actually a Cedar Rapids native, and he apparently is getting the start on opening day. So one of your Iowa natives picking up that start for opening day.
Yeah, with David Bednar for making the All-Star game. I guess a local brewery in Pennsylvania. They're in Pittsburgh. I think it's IC Light, Iron City Light, gave him a 6-pack of beer for making the All-Star team because he's taking Clayton Kershaw's spot. He packed up a 6-pack in a cooler, put it in the Dodgers dugout for Kershaw, and said, "Get well. Thank you for the gift." As a thank you gift to Kershaw since he was named as the injury replacement. The handwritten note, Pittsburgh's finest, enjoy, waiting for him in the dugout.
I love it.
As the Pirates were as the Dodgers were visiting Pittsburgh for a series with the Buccos.
I love it. That's awesome. Because again, All-Star game, All-Star games get you bonuses. They get you checks.
They do.
And so, take buy a 6-pack and give it over.
Yeah, by all means, it's probably one of the first times in years I think Pittsburgh has had 2 people at the All-Star game.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
So, all right, so Mike, with the All-Star, probably looking for content coming out of the All-Star break with baseball. We're going to do our standings check-in next week.
Yep.
Post All-Star break. Post All-Star break. See how our predictions are doing.
Oh, by the way, this is okay. Oh man, I totally forgot. Ooh, I didn't get this in the outline. Sorry, I'm gonna shock Rich. This is gonna be one of those moments where Rich has gotten really good at randomly accepting my ADD brain coming up with an entire topic he's not ready for. Take a drink, Rich, because you got to be ready for this.
Okay.
I have a proposal for you.
Go ahead. All right.
The All-Star game, either one of two things. One, the MLB should hype the 4th of July as if it's their New Year's Eve if they were college football, or Christmas as if they were the NBA.
Okay.
4th of July, you should see baseball on every channel. You should have baseball coverage from 8 in the morning until 2 o'clock in the morning, because you could do that on with the West Coast. 2 o'clock for us here, maybe 1 o'clock for us here, but you could put a game in the West Coast in the evening and have it go until super dark late, and do it in a way, and it should be your biggest hype day of the year. Or the All-Star game should always be played on 4th of July. One of those two things needs to happen.
All right, I like that idea. I mean, we've seen that baseball is willing to put games and start them at 11 a.m. in the afternoon. So I don't see why you couldn't have a morning game.
They're doing morning games. Look at
on Sunday mornings.
Sunday mornings they're doing morning games.
So yeah, they usually could do like a 9:30 or a 10 o'clock start to a game out on the East Coast, and then gradually shift coverage to have a West Coast game start in prime time, or even at 9 o'clock, and have a nightcap game that starts at 9 o'clock out on the West Coast.
Yeah, why don't they do that? Like, this to me seems like basic. Like, your MLB is like, oh, we got to make the pace of the game faster. We got to do this. We got to do that. We got to have an automatic strike zone. We got to have we have to have a pitch clock. We have to have bigger bases. How about you hype the game? What other sporting events? There's one other sporting event that happens on 4th of July, the day of 4th of July, that anybody cares about. There's one. The hot dog eating contest.
Yeah, the hot dog eating contest. Yeah, Wimbledon goes around 4th of July weekend.
It is, but here in America, we don't care. You got the hot dog. By the way, how about this? How about we make an extended 10-minute 7th inning stretch and have the hot dog eating contest on Wrigley, or in the Bronx.
You're never
do it in the Bronx.
No, you can't do that. The thing that makes the hot dog eating contest so iconic is that it is on Coney Island on the site of Nathan's Famous Hot Dogs.
Sure.
You can't take the
But
hot dog contest out
what
of
hot dogs,
Coney Island.
Rich? What hot dogs do they serve at Wrigley or at Yankee Stadium?
Nathan's Famous Hot Dogs, I'm assuming.
I believe that is accurate.
I've only been to Yankee Stadium once, and I don't remember the brand of hot dog.
I've never been there, but I think if I remember correctly, I think I've read that before. Why is what's it? Tell me, give me, Rich, right here, right now. You give me a more iconic duo than a hot dog and baseball.
There isn't.
But by the way, at community breakfast this morning. I was sitting there scrolling my phone, and I can't remember the guy who it was. But there's a quote from some guy that says, "A hot dog at a baseball game is 10 times better than roast beef at the Ritz."
Oh, I'd believe that a hot dog at a baseball game is a lot more filling than a hot dog from any restaurant here, even Portillo's.
He was saying tastes better. So
tastes better, and is more filling. Yeah.
Right. So what I'm saying, Rich, tell me a more iconic duo than baseball and hot dogs.
There isn't. But
okay, I understand.
Wouldn't be the same.
Then
would not be able to get the notoriety out of moving the hot dog eating contest into the Bronx inside Yankee Stadium.
Here's a crazy one. Why not put up a baseball diamond just off of Coney Island or just outside Coney Island?
There's a minor league baseball park on Coney Island where the Coney Island Cyclones play, but I don't think you get Yankee Stadium.
Let's do the Yankee.
Get an MLB team.
Why not? We're doing games in Dyersville. Why not go over to Coney Island, have the hot dog eating contest be the start? There you go. Have the because you need about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So do the hot dog eating contest. After the hot dog eating contest, announce your starting lineup and play a game. Tell me that doesn't. You got the most iconic duo ever, hot dog and baseball. You got 4th of July. You got Coney Island. Make it the midday game.
It's a novel idea, but I don't know if you get a team.
Either way, there's only one sport competing against it. Nobody else does. Why is it that the MLB doesn't take that day to say, "Hey, we are America's pastime. Let's remind you of it," and even if it means we're shoving it down your throat from 9 in the morning on Fox, start at 9 fine, do it on NBC. They're the ones that have the early game on Peacock. Use the same crew. Do it on to say, hey, you can show it on both, but you have to do it on NBC. NBC at 9 a.m. in for the Mets game. A 2 o'clock or a noon game. A 10 o'clock game there, a noon game for us, so that'd be a 1 o'clock game, maybe a 2 o'clock game in the Bronx. Okay, then you move to Wrigley for the Cubs versus. By the way, that game needs to be Boston and Yankee. Make it rivalry day. Boom, even better, rivalry day. So now you have the most epic matchups throughout the entire league that you're going to put on the air. You're going to who's the Mets' biggest rival, Rich?
Probably the Phillies.
Fine, Mets and Phillies. We're going to do that. We'll do that in Philly. Then we'll jump back over to New York where we do the hot dog eating contest right before you and after the hot dog eating contest, you go right into the Yankees Red Sox at either one of those parks is fine. I don't care. We don't have to do it on Coney Island. Fine, we'll leave that alone. Let's do it. We could do it at Boston. Show off the Green Monster. Then we move to Wrigley for a 4 o'clock game, roughly. have that game go, then do a 6 or 7 o'clock game, 6:30 game, where you have do the Rockies. Have a home run derby. By the way, the Cubs and the Cardinals. Rich, who we facing off with the Rockies and the Mariners?
Sure.
Okay. You're going to do that at 6 o'clock. You're going to watch a home run derby happening. You're going to have 45 points scored. I don't care. Put out high school pitchers to get blasted and let that be the game. Then we're going to move over to the West Coast where we're going to have the Dodgers and the Giants. I mean, really, they're not, but we'll do Dodgers and Giants.
No, that's an iconic rivalry.
Sure. Yeah, we'll do Dodgers Giants at Dodgers Field for your nightcap. Tell me you're not watching baseball 15 hours that day, Rich.
It'd be a fun thing to watch. You gotta get your TV networks on board for that, because very rarely, I don't know, it just seems like you very rarely have competition amongst those national televised games.
Hey, got a question. Rich, time out. We do it for the NFL.
You do.
And
you do it for the NFL.
They cooperate and they know what's set up exactly how it's set up that day. You do it for the NFL. Why aren't you doing it for baseball? By the way, the other way you could go about that is do Mets Yankees at Yankee Stadium. I guess you do Philly and Pittsburgh at one of their two venues, I guess. Then you do Sox Cubs, White Sox Cubs.
Battle for Texas. Maybe do Rangers Astros.
Rangers Astros.
Then do Angels Dodgers.
Angels Dodgers. I would say you could do A's Giants as well. But seriously, why wouldn't this be something that the MLB should be hopping on? You'd have baseball all day. You'd tell me something else. What else is going to be on TV? Make it.
Well, you do have baseball all day on the 4th of July. You just don't have it on national television.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Get it on national television. Get it off of the independent ones. Let them simulcast it. I don't care. Do both. You want eyeballs on Major League Baseball? This is how you do it. You own the day. What other day does baseball have?
Opening day. That is something that ESPN does do, like 3 or 4 games on opening day.
Yep.
That's it.
Do it opening day and do it 4th of July. Those two things have to happen. I'm just saying. Like, if you think I'm wrong, tell me in the comments, folks. For me, it's one of those things that we gotta that I think that's the way that the or how about that? How about you're typing this up? But how about do the home run derby at noon, and the All-Star game starts at 3, 5.
Oh, then you're taking away money from the All-Star game because you're not getting all of your eyes on the home run derby. You gotta split those things up.
Okay, I suppose.
But as far as like an All-Star game, we can probably talk about this more. Have more than just a home run derby. Why not put targets or different zones out on the field to where it's more than just a home run derby?
Is it like Korea that I've seen, or is it Japan?
Japan does a bunting competition.
Exactly.
Do more than just a home run derby. I think you play like when you play. I don't remember what iteration of a baseball video game there was, but you get points if it's a home run, or points if it lands so many distance somewhere out in the outfield, or strategic zones or places to hit it in.
Yeah.
Put people like Luis Ariz out there as a hitting competition, where he's not a big home run guy, but he knows how to place the ball to get hits.
I got one for you.
Right now.
I got one for you. How about a home run derby where if a kid actually catches it, you're done? It's not about time. It's not about number of pitches. It's not about that. It's if a kid catches, if one of those kids have the same amount of kids, but if one of those kids actually catches your ball as the mass group tackles him, you're out. You're done. How about do something fun like that?
All right, probably more on this next week as we'll need content for baseball. Maybe ways that you could improve the All-Star game.
Yeah, let's do that. Do you want to pick a horse for the home run derby?
For the home run derby, man, I'm going to go with the hometown kid, Julio Rodriguez.
I'm going to go with Vlad.
Hey, Vlad Guerrero Jr.
Yeah, let's go with Vlad Jr. He does have a stiff competition as he goes against Mookie Betts first, but I'm going to go with Vlad. Okay.
I'll clean it up later. All right, Mike, so we'll talk about the All-Star game next week. Mike, it seems like we went really off the deep end, really off. It was great discussions with a July 4th kickoff or hype up, just like college football does with New Year's Eve and basketball does with the NCAA tournament and on Christmas Eve with the NBA. So let's talk about the NBA in-season tournament next week, where hopefully we'll have more details.
By the way,
review it.
By the way, you just brought something up, and this is the last thing I'm going to say. When does baseball really start to matter, Rich?
I think for the casual fans and even true fans around October, when you start seeing are you eligible for the playoffs or are you
I would argue the trade deadline.
Okay.
So if you do something like the MLB or the NBA doesn't start until Christmas. Nobody cares. Why not do the same thing but move it to 4th of July?
The trade deadline on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
I still think that's a little bit too early.
That
for
is
a
early.
Trade deadline.
But either way, I'm just saying, come up with something better. Own the day, and the MLB has to own the day because doing it on Labor Day, that's too late. One, it brings attention to the fact that your players and your owners can never get together and they have strikes and lockouts all the time. And two, everybody's getting hyped for football that week. Okay, so yeah, next week we are going to have our power rankings. We've been previewing it for a couple of weeks. This week we're actually going to do it. We're going to do the power rankings for the NFL. We're going to have the NBA. We're going to talk NBA with the in-season tournament. And finally, we have a couple of quick hits to do before we sign off this week. Rich, how does our John Deere Classic leaderboard look?
I actually forgot to get that up.
So right now,
the current leader looks to be
Cameron Young.
Yes, with a score of -13.
And then Adam
is through 11:55 a.m.
Yep.
Eastern time.
Adam Shekin is second at 11, tied with Garrick Higo, and Brendan Todd, all tied for second. And in fifth place, we have a whole slew of players. We have four more players. We have Denny McCarthy, Kevin Roy, Ludwig Aberg, and William Moreau. That's your top. Those are yours tied for fifth, and then we're at ninth. You're at Mark Hubbard, and rounding out your top 10, you have a bunch of people tied at -8. We're not going to give them all to you because that's 8 people. Yeah, we're not going to give that to you.
Yeah.
But
and to wrap up the show, Mike, wrap up the show. A last bit of QCA news to put into the show was Luke Toporowski becomes the first Quad City native to sign an NHL contract. He signed a contract with the Boston Bruins. Toporowski, really iconic Quad City Mallard during their heyday in the early 2000s, as his father Kerry Toporowski was a top player for the Ducks and and he also had a local restaurant around here, LB Birdies, I think it was, that served poutine, really good poutine.
Trying to see, I think I know this kid. I do. Okay, funny story, and I don't think he'll ever remember it. Maybe he will. While my wife and I were dating, we went ice skating one time, and there were a bunch of high school students that were messing around and making jokes, and I believe one of them was this kid, and I played Crack the Whip with him, and as I was making my turn, I was the leader, so I was the one trying to crack the whip. As I was making my turn, I high-sided my skate and slid into the boards as fast as I could go, and I started laughing. By the way, I was in a full suit because we went on a date night, and I was in a full suit. And I was ice skating and playing Crack the Whip with these guys. And as I went down, he and his buddies all came over to check on me and make sure I was doing all right. And I was fine. I was laughing, and we all had fun. So anyway, good job on him. We are excited to see hockey players coming from the Quad Cities. With that, Rich, people are watching us on Facebook. They really don't want to see our faces anymore. They just want to listen to us. And it's really easy to listen to us in the car. What should they do?
You know, Mike, look for us wherever you download all your other podcasts. Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, just to name a few. Mike, if they're listening to us in podcast land, give them the two ways that they can see an audio version of the show.
A video version, you mean? If you want to check us out, you can check us out first on YouTube at youtube.com/ballsandsticks. Look for Rich and I and our normal logo that you see everywhere else. Or you can check us out on Facebook and be like Eli Kincaid, who gave us a reaction this week. If you give us reactions live or comments live, and they're appropriate for the show, we will get you on air, and we will read it out, and if you spark discussion, we'll give you credit for it. Rich, they know where to find us. How do they participate in poll questions, and then take us out?
All right, you can make sure to find our poll questions on Facebook at Fans of Balls and Sticks, on Mike and I's page, or on our regular Fans Balls and Sticks Facebook page. Mike, with that, why don't you go ahead and roll that outro?
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.